On February 16, 2005, a small purple floppy disk arrived at a television station in Wichita, Kansas. The disk contained a single active file, a document with the usual taunts, the usual threats, the usual signature of a killer who had been sending messages to police and media for 30 years. But the disk also contained something else, something the sender didn't know about, something that had been sitting there invisibly since the moment he created the file. The forensic team used NK software to examine the floppy disk and found another Microsoft Word document, deleted but not gone. The metadata of that document had been last modified by someone named Dennis at Christ Lutheran Church. From that single data point, it took investigators 9 days to arrest one of the most wanted serial killers in American history. He had been hiding in plain sight for 31 years, and he had handed them the key himself.
This fellow takes advantage of people, he is disloyal, he is contemptful, and he manipulates everyone he runs into.
He lives a double life. He doesn't fit the profile of what we would have expected for the BTK killer.
Before we talk about the floppy disk, we need to talk about what it took to get there. Dennis Lynn Rader was born on March 9th, 1945, in Pittsburgh, Kansas, the eldest of 4 sons. He grew up in Wichita, served in the Air Force, came home, got married, had 2 children. He worked for ADT installing home security systems. Later, he became a city compliance officer, the man who showed up at your door if your grass was too long or your dog wasn't licensed. He was a Cub Scout leader, a church council president, a suburban dad. Between those 2 lives, the ordinary and the monstrous, he hid what the New York Times would later describe as an existence that was intensely ordinary. Between January of 1974 and January of 1991, Dennis Rader murdered 10 people in and around Wichita, Kansas. He strangled them, he bound them, he photographed them, he kept mementos. He named himself Bind, Torture, Kill, BTK. And then, in 1991, he stopped killing. He never stopped thinking about it. Before we go further, stop for a moment and consider what you are looking at. Dennis Rader killed 10 people over 17 years. He committed those murders across 4 separate decades of his life, while holding a job, raising children, attending church, serving his community. He did not disappear after each crime. He went home. Psychologists classify this behavioral pattern as the organized offender profile. The organized offender plans. He controls the crime scene. He takes precautions. He manages his presentation to the world with deliberate care. What distinguishes Rader from almost every other killer in this category is what he could not control. His need to be known. He did not kill for recognition, but he could not tolerate anonymity. Every communication to the police, every letter, every package, every puzzle was a bid for acknowledgement. He wanted them to understand the magnitude of what he had done. He wanted to be taken seriously. This is what investigators understood about Rader by 2004, that his need for attention had become stronger than his caution. They began engineering a trap built not from physical evidence, but from his own psychology. That trap was a classified ad in a newspaper. In January of 2004, the Wichita Eagle published a retrospective piece on the BTK murders, 30 years after the first killings. Rader would later say the article stirred something in him. Over the remainder of 2004, Rader sent communications to police and media practically once a month, a word puzzle, chapters from a fictional autobiography, dolls bound in the manner of his victims, mementos from his actual crimes. He was escalating, not toward another murder, towards something that, for Rader, felt more urgent: recognition. In January of 2005, a cereal box was found in the back of a pickup truck at a Home Depot parking lot. Inside, a document describing his first crime in gruesome detail, and a question. Rader asked police whether he could communicate via floppy disk without being traced to a particular computer. He told them to place an ad in the Wichita Eagle reading Rex. It will be okay if the answer was yes. Detective Ken Landwehr arranged what he would later call his favorite lie of all time. The ad ran, Rader took the signal as a guarantee. On February 16, 2005, the purple disk arrived. Now, let's look at what was on it, because this is where the forensic analysis begins. The disk contained a single active file called tester.rtf, the usual BTK communication. But when Officer Randy Stone ran the disk through EnCase forensic software, he found a second document, deleted, hidden, an agenda for a church council meeting. Here is what you need to understand about deleted files. When you delete a document from a floppy disk, the file does not disappear. The operating system simply marks that space as available for new data until something else is written over it. The original file remains, invisible to a normal user, fully recoverable by a forensic examiner with the right tools. A savvy investigator with the right tools can fairly easily reconstruct information that the user thought had been deleted. Rader had deleted the church agenda before sending the disk. He believed it was gone. It was not gone. The metadata of the recovered document showed it had been last modified by a user named Dennis at Christ Lutheran Church in Wichita. Stone searched the church website. He found the name Dennis Rader listed as president of the Congregation Council. He cross-referenced the name against the BTK task force files. Rader had never been a suspect. He had never been interviewed. He had spent 31 years completely outside the investigation's field of vision. When investigators drove past his home, they saw a black Jeep Cherokee in the driveway, matching the vehicle caught on surveillance footage from an earlier BTK package drop. They needed one more piece of confirmation before making an arrest. They needed DNA. Investigators obtained a warrant to collect DNA from a close relative, Rader's daughter, who had undergone a medical procedure at Kansas State University's health clinic. DNA tests revealed a familial match to the DNA found under one of BTK's victims' fingernails. The chain was complete. A deleted church agenda, a user named Dennis, a black Jeep Cherokee, a familial DNA match. From the moment the floppy disk arrived to the moment of arrest, 9 days. On February 25, 2005, Dennis Rader was pulled over during what he believed was a routine lunch break from his compliance officer job. An officer asked him, "You know why you are here?" Rader responded, "I assume it is about BTK." During the 34-hour interrogation that followed, Rader kept returning to the disk. He told Landwehr, "How come you lied to me? I really thought you were honest when you gave me the signal. It cannot be traced." Landwehr replied simply, "Because I was trying to catch you." In August of 2005, Dennis Rader pleaded guilty to 10 counts of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to 10 consecutive life terms, the maximum available under Kansas law, which had no death penalty at the time of his crimes. After his arrest, Rader directed police to what he called his mother lode, a locked drawer in his City Hall office containing newspaper clippings about the case, copies of all his communications, photographs of his victims, and several chapters of a book about BTK he planned to have discovered after his death. He had been keeping this archive for decades, organised, labelled, catalogued. The families of his victims sat in the courtroom and listened to him describe in methodical detail what he had done to their loved ones. Several of them said afterward that they had not expected what they felt. Not relief, not closure, but a profound and disorienting encounter with the specific banality of genuine evil. He was not raving, he was not remorseful, he was calm, he was precise. He was, in some essential way, still performing. He is currently incarcerated at El Dorado Correctional Facility in Kansas. He is 79 years old. He has given hundreds of interviews. He continues to speak about the crimes in the third person, as though BTK were a separate entity he observed rather than a self he inhabited. The last victim's family has never accepted this distinction. But here is what I keep coming back to. Dennis Rader asked the police, directly in writing, whether a floppy disk could be traced. He asked for their assurance, and when they gave it to him, he believed them. A man who spent 31 years successfully deceiving his wife, his children, his congregation, his colleagues, his entire community, trusted a detective. Why? The psychological literature on narcissistic personality in serial offenders points to something consistent. The same need for recognition that drives the communication also drives the vulnerability. Rader did not contact police because he was careless. He contacted them because he needed a witness. He needed someone to know. And that need for an audience, for acknowledgement, for the feeling of being understood, was stronger than every survival instinct he had cultivated over 3 decades. He was not caught because technology outsmarted him. He was caught because his psychology made the technology possible. He handed them the disc. He asked if it could be traced. He sent it anyway. The BTK arrest is considered the most famous criminal case ever solved by computer forensics. But the computer forensics only worked because of something no software can manufacture. He wanted to be found. He just didn't know it yet. I think about that a lot.